The arena has fallen silent. A silence so heavy it feels like the weight of 1,000 matches, 1,000 wars, 1,000 sacrifices all came crashing down in one unbearable moment. Fans who once cheered with joy, who once screamed for the Usos, now sit with tears in their eyes, stunned, broken, and unable to process the reality that has hit the wrestling world like a thunderbolt. Jimmy Uso, one half of the legendary Usos tag team, the man who redefined brotherhood and tag team dominance, has tragically passed away. And it wasn't in the ring. It wasn't during some spectacular stunt gone wrong. It wasn't in a storyline twist WWE cooked up for shock value. No, this was real. This was raw. This was cruel. Jimmy's years of brutal injuries, the countless times he pushed his body beyond its limits for the sake of entertaining millions, finally caught up with him. The man who gave his body, his blood, his sweat, and his very soul to wrestling is gone. And the one left crumbling in pieces. Naomi. His wife. His love. His partner in life and spirit. She broke down in tears when the news reached her, collapsing to her knees, unable to fathom a life without the man she built her dreams with. A woman known for her radiant energy, her dazzling smile, her electric glow, reduced to heartbreaking sobs as the love of her life was ripped away from her. But this is more than just a personal tragedy. This is a catastrophe that has shaken the WWE Universe, rattled the very foundation of the Bloodline storyline, and left fans enraged at the system that allowed this to happen. How many times did we see Jimmy Uso limp to the ring? How many times did we watch him clutch his knees, his shoulders, his ribs, yet still be expected to put on a 5-star performance? How many times did WWE ignore the obvious toll, choosing ratings and profit over health and humanity? This wasn't just bad luck. This wasn't an accident in the traditional sense. This was the direct result of years of abuse, of WWE's merciless schedule, of pushing bodies past the point of no return. Jimmy Uso didn't just die because his body gave up. He died because the industry he dedicated his life to chewed him up, used every ounce of strength he had, and left nothing but scars behind. The timeline of Jimmy's injuries reads like a horror novel. Multiple knee surgeries, torn ligaments, shoulder damage, back issues, concussions. Night after night of landing hard on his body to make the fans scream, to keep the story alive, to give us entertainment, while sacrificing the very thing that mattered most, his health. And through it all, he smiled. Through it all, he threw up the ones, with his brother Jay, standing tall, telling the world they were the best tag team alive. But behind that smile, pain. Behind that energy, exhaustion. Behind that legendary career, a body screaming for mercy. And Naomi knew. She knew the nights when he couldn't sleep. She knew the mornings when he couldn't walk. She knew the days when he could barely lift himself out of bed, but still dragged himself to the ring because he had a job to do. She carried that pain with him. She held his hand through it. And now, she holds nothing but grief. The WWE locker room is devastated. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the man who called Jimmy his day one, was reportedly inconsolable when he heard the news. This wasn't just a cousin. This wasn't just a bloodline member. This was family, blood, a piece of his own soul gone forever. Jey Uso. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't posted. He hasn't made a statement. And who can blame him? Imagine losing not just your brother, but your twin, your other half, the man you literally shared a life and career with. Jey isn't just mourning. Jey is shattered. And the fans are furious. Because they saw it coming. They saw the countless matches where Jimmy's body was clearly not 100%. They saw WWE push him into the spotlight again and again, ignoring the warnings of doctors, ignoring the fans' pleas, ignoring the obvious signs of long-term damage. And for what? For storylines. For merchandise sales. For ticket revenue. For the Bloodline saga. Jimmy Uso gave everything. And in return, WWE gave him nothing but pain. No proper time to heal. No respect for his long-term health. No care for the fact that outside of that ring, Jimmy was a husband, a father, a human being with dreams and a future. Instead, they treated him like a product, a machine, disposable and replaceable. And now he's gone. Naomi's breakdown wasn't just about losing her husband. It was about rage. Rage at an industry that stole him from her. Rage at a company that let this happen. Rage at the system that puts profit over people, spectacle over safety. She screamed through her tears, demanding to know why. Why wasn't her husband protected? Why wasn't he given the time he needed? Why did WWE keep pushing him until his body finally said, enough? And the most heartbreaking part. This tragedy was preventable, if WWE had slowed down. If they had listened. If they had valued Jimmy the person over Jimmy the performer. He might still be here. He might still be at home with Naomi. He might still be with Jay, raising the ones, smiling, laughing, living. But now, all that's left is pain. Fans have already started petitions, demanding WWE implement stricter health and recovery policies. Demanding accountability. Demanding justice. Because this cannot keep happening. We cannot lose another superstar like this. We cannot allow another life to be sacrificed for entertainment. Jimmy Uso's death isn't just the end of a career. It's the end of an era. The Usos, the greatest tag team of their generation, are no more. The Bloodline, the most dominant faction in WWE history, has been broken in a way no storyline could ever replicate. The man who lived by the motto, day one-ish, has been taken from us in the cruelest way imaginable. And Naomi, she's left with a void that can never be filled. A love that can never be replaced. A heartbreak that will never heal. Watching her tears, hearing her cries, feeling her pain, it's unbearable. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not now. Not ever. But this is where we are. A wrestling world without Jimmy Uso. A Naomi without her husband. A Jey Uso without his brother. A Roman Reigns without his right-hand man. A WWE Universe without one of its brightest stars. And the question echoes louder than ever. How many more superstars have to break? How many more lives have to be lost before WWE finally changes? The tragic death of Jimmy Uso is not just the end of a man's career. It's the end of a brotherhood, the end of a partnership, the end of a bond that millions around the world celebrated week after week inside the WWE ring. Jimmy Uso wasn't just another superstar. He wasn't just a tag team wrestler. He wasn't just part of the family dynasty. Jimmy Uso was the heartbeat of the Usos, the soul of the bloodline, and the one person whose presence could electrify an arena before he even spoke a word. And now, he's gone. But how did this happen? What truly went down in the final days of Jimmy Uso's life that left Naomi, his wife, and the entire WWE Universe shattered? Reports are now surfacing that years of injuries, years of wear and tear on his body, and years of pushing himself to the absolute limit finally caught up to him. Behind every smile, behind every USO chant, behind every dance and hype moment, there was pain. Real, brutal, unforgiving pain that Jimmy Uso hid from the cameras and from the fans. Close friends have revealed that Jimmy had been battling multiple injuries for years, nagging back problems, chronic knee issues, lingering head trauma, and countless other wounds that never fully healed. He was the kind of man who refused to back down, who refused to let his family down, who refused to show weakness even when his body screamed for help. And that mindset, as legendary as it was, may have cost him everything. Naomi, devastated, was seen collapsing to her knees during an emotional statement, crying uncontrollably as she spoke about the man she loved. Jimmy was more than a wrestler. He was my husband, my best friend, my protector, my everything. He gave everything to this business, to his fans, to his family. And now he's gone, and I don't know how to go on without him. Her words broke everyone who listened. The pain in her voice was undeniable. The heartbreak etched on her face was unbearable. She wasn't just mourning a WWE superstar. She was mourning the man who shared her dreams, who held her through her darkest nights, who stood by her side through every obstacle. And then, there's Jey Uso. The other half of the Usos. The man who spent his entire career standing shoulder to shoulder with his brother, battling the best teams in the world, breaking records, becoming the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in history. Jey hasn't spoken publicly yet, but sources close to him say he is absolutely destroyed. He reportedly locked himself away after hearing the news, unable to process a life without his twin brother. For Jey, this is more than just grief, it's losing half of himself. The WWE locker room is equally shaken. Roman Reigns, who shared the bloodline story with Jimmy and Jey, is said to be devastated. I lost my cousin. I lost my family. I lost my brother in arms, Roman reportedly told a close confidant. Superstars across the roster, from Randy Orton to Seth Rollins to even rivals like Kevin Owens, have expressed their heartbreak, posting tributes online that have sent shockwaves across social media. Fans are demanding answers. Could WWE have done more to protect Jimmy? Was the schedule too grueling? Were the doctors overlooking the toll his body was taking? These questions are flooding the internet, sparking outrage among fans who feel that their beloved superstar was pushed past his breaking point. But perhaps the most haunting detail comes from Jimmy's final days. Multiple reports claim that Jimmy confided in those closest to him about feeling exhausted, about feeling like his body was failing, but he still chose to show up, still chose to perform, still chose to fight. Not for himself, but for his family and the fans. That's who Jimmy Uso was. A warrior who sacrificed everything until there was nothing left. And now, the aftermath is unbearable. Naomi has been seen surrounded by family members, unable to hold back tears. Jey hasn't made any public appearances. The bloodline storyline, one of the greatest in wrestling history, has been shattered by real-life tragedy. WWE officials are reportedly planning a massive tribute show dedicated to Jimmy, where legends and current stars will honor his legacy. But no matter how beautiful the tribute, it will never fill the void he has left behind. The pain is raw. The anger is real. The questions remain unanswered. How did it come to this? How could a man who gave so much be taken so soon? And how will Naomi, Jay, Roman, and the entire wrestling world move forward without Jimmy Uso? The story of Jimmy's tragic passing is far from over. Because in the days ahead, the truth behind his injuries, the truth behind WWE's role, and the true cost of his sacrifice may finally come to light. The locker room, once Jimmy's second home, turned into a place Naomi couldn't bear to enter. Every corner of it reminded her of him. The bench where he'd lace up his boots, the mirror where he'd hype himself up before going out, the laughter he shared with Jay, Roman, and the rest of the bloodline before they went to war in the ring. WWE tried to support her, offering her time away, counseling, and even creative ideas if she wanted to come back later. But none of it touched the pain that had taken root deep inside her. Naomi was seen sitting ringside at a SmackDown taping just weeks later, tears streaming down her face as Michael Cole, his voice breaking, acknowledged Jimmy's memory before the show went on air. Fans in the arena stood up, held signs reading, "Use Forever," and chanted Jimmy's name. Naomi broke down, unable to contain the grief, as she buried her face in her hands. She wasn't just a superstar at that moment, she was a broken wife, grieving in front of the world. Behind the scenes, Jey Uso was struggling in his own way. For years, he and Jimmy were inseparable. They were twins, brothers, tag partners, champions, and best friends. To Jey, this wasn't just the loss of a sibling, it was like losing a part of his soul. He confessed in private that he didn't know if he could ever step foot in a wrestling ring again without Jimmy by his side. When he stood next to Naomi, watching her fall apart, he felt an unbearable responsibility to protect her, to carry on Jimmy's memory, but also to somehow carry on himself. And yet, Jey wasn't the only one affected. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, was visibly shaken. He wasn't the stone-cold leader anymore. Reports said Roman had locked himself in his locker room for hours when he got the news, refusing to speak to anyone. This wasn't just about losing a cousin. This was about losing family, losing a piece of the bloodline that had made WWE history. The locker room atmosphere was tense, thick with silence and grief. Superstars who had feuded with Jimmy, from Kevin Owens to Sami Zayn, found themselves speechless. These were men who had gone to war with him in the ring, who had built unforgettable stories with him. Even they couldn't believe Jimmy's chapter had been cut so short. Naomi, though, carried the heaviest burden. One night, she went live on Instagram, her face bare, her eyes swollen from crying. She admitted to fans that she didn't know how she was supposed to move forward. "He wasn't just my husband," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He was my safe place, and now he's gone. And I don't know how to do this anymore." The livestream cut out shortly after, leaving fans heartbroken and terrified for her well-being. WWE fans worldwide poured out their emotions. Hashtags like #RipJimmyUso and #StayStrongNaomi trended for days. Candlelight vigils were held outside WWE arenas, and countless tribute videos filled YouTube and TikTok, celebrating his career, his smile, his laugh, his undeniable chemistry with Jey. But in the middle of all this love and support, Naomi was still alone at night, sitting in the empty space of a bed that once held her husband. She admitted to close friends that she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard his voice. Every time she looked at her phone, she scrolled back through his old messages, his jokes, his reminders to be amazing, baby. The grief wasn't just a wound, it was a storm that refused to stop. And WWE was beginning to wonder, could Naomi ever return? Could she ever dance, glow, or smile in the ring again after this loss? Or was this truly the end of Naomi's WWE journey? But even if she wanted to, tragedy wasn't done haunting her. Because just when Naomi thought she was beginning to find her footing, another revelation about Jimmy's health came to light. One that not only broke her even further, but also made her question whether the WWE lifestyle itself had ultimately stolen him away from her. The revelation hit like a bombshell. It wasn't just injuries catching up with Jimmy Uso, it was the cumulative toll of years of pain that had gone untreated, exacerbated by a relentless WWE schedule that allowed no room for proper recovery. Doctors who had seen him in private warned of the danger, but Jimmy, ever the warrior, refused to slow down. He didn't want to disappoint fans. He didn't want to let down Jey. He didn't want to appear weak in front of his family. And now, Naomi was left to grapple with the horrifying reality. The man she loved had sacrificed his life for the very industry that demanded it. Sources close to the family reveal that Jimmy had suffered from chronic injuries that worsened over time, torn ligaments, back problems, recurring concussions, and damaged knees that he masked with painkillers and sheer determination. The final incident reportedly occurred after a match where his body simply gave out, overwhelmed by the years of punishment it endured. It was the culmination of decades spent risking everything in the ring, of taking bumps, absorbing hits, and fighting through agony night after night. Naomi's grief intensified as she pieced together the final hours. She learned that in those last moments, Jimmy had still been focused on others. Even while struggling, he reportedly called Jay to check on him, texted their family, and reassured anyone worried about his well-being that he was fine. That was Jimmy Uso to the very end, putting everyone else before himself. The WWE Universe reacted with a storm of outrage. Fans flooded social media with tributes, but also with anger aimed at the company. "This is on WWE," one fan tweeted. "Jimmy was pushed too hard for too long. They knew and they let it happen." Another wrote, "How many more guys have to die for entertainment? This is disgusting." The outrage wasn't just emotional, it was systemic. Fans demanded reform, stricter health policies, and proper recovery protocols for wrestlers who put their lives on the line every single night. Meanwhile, Naomi's personal grief became public in a way she could never have anticipated. Paparazzi captured her leaving the house in tears, clutching Jimmy's favorite jacket, her makeup streaked from crying, her face hollow with despair. Interviews with her close friends revealed that she spent days in bed, unable to eat or sleep, haunted by memories of their life together. Every match they had ever watched, every celebration they had shared, every quiet moment in the house now felt like a cruel reminder of what was gone. Even Jey Uso, the twin who had shared every high and low with Jimmy, admitted privately that he felt incomplete. WWE executives reportedly offered him time off, counseling, and the option to step away from television indefinitely, but the heartbreak of losing his brother was something no amount of corporate support could fix. As the wrestling world mourned, discussions arose about the larger implications. Was this tragedy preventable? Could WWE have done more to protect Jimmy Uso? Insider reports indicate that wrestlers and staff had long voiced concerns about overscheduling and insufficient rest periods. Yet Jimmy, ever the professional, refused to be pulled from matches. He wanted to perform, to honor the fans, to protect the legacy of the Usos. And now, that legacy was bittersweet, celebrated, but forever shadowed by the tragedy that ended his life. WWE planned tributes across Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-view events. Legends, current superstars, and even rivals took turns sharing their memories, from backstage antics to career-defining moments in the ring. But even the most heartfelt tributes could not fill the void Naomi, Jay, and the bloodline felt. No championship, no spotlight, no accolades could ever replace the brother, husband, and friend that had been lost. Naomi's emotional Instagram post, now shared millions of times, captured the pain in one simple line: "I lost my love, my partner, my everything. Jimmy, you were my world, and now the world feels empty." The post was accompanied by a photo of Jimmy smiling, holding their children, and wearing the red and black of the Usos, a reminder of both the joy he brought and the heartbreak left behind. The WWE Universe stands at a crossroads. The tragedy has sparked conversations about wrestler safety, long-term health, and the human cost of the entertainment fans demand. Jimmy Uso's death is more than just the loss of a superstar. It is a mirror reflecting the consequences of an industry that often values spectacle over safety, performance over preservation, and ratings over real lives. And while tributes will continue, and fans will forever remember the electrifying presence of Jimmy Uso in the ring, the human cost is irreversible. Naomi continues to grieve, Jay continues to mourn, and the world of wrestling will never be the same.